All right, let's get started. Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video and welcome to not only my very first knitting podcast, but my very first video on YouTube, full stop. And here comes Milo. Want to say hi to the people? Come up. Come here. There you go. Come on. There, yep, all the way up. There you go. All right, this is Milo, everybody. Milo, say hi to everybody. Very good. He's a man of few words. My name is Kaylee. I live just outside of New York City. I work in Manhattan, and I wanted to join the really fun knitting community on YouTube. I've been learning how to knit for the past few months now, and the knitting YouTubers, knitting podcasters, knitting instructors on YouTube have been so valuable to me as I'm teaching myself a lot of things. I took a class as well, and I want to join that community. But also, I thought it would be a really awesome way to document my own progress. Sorry, this chair is not big enough for two. Hang on, buddy. Oh, okay, we'll see. No, he's offended. Goodbye. Are you coming back? All right. Get comfy. Awesome. I've been knitting for just a matter of months. I knew how to knit when I was growing up. I didn't do it very seriously or spend much time learning about techniques or different stitches or what I could make. I also did the same with crochet. Yeah, I kind of didn't stick with it for very long after that. I think there were many, many years where I didn't pick up a set of needles or a hook. And then a few years ago, my friend was having a baby, and I thought, what a better gift to give than to make a baby blanket for her son. And so I started to knit again through that for the next child that came into my life. I decided to crochet that. I realize I'm still wearing these. Stick those out. I don't know if you could see them. Well, I had AirPods in, took them out because forgot I had them in. Yeah, so I had been toggling back and forth between knitting and crochet for a couple of years, purely for baby blanket making. And then at the end of last year, the Sophie scarf started taking over my Instagram feed, my Pinterest, etc. And I was like, I think I would really like to make one of those. So I bought the pattern and realized it was knitting. So I'm like, all right, well, this is my opportunity to, I guess, bring back that skill. And so that's how I got started with knitting. I think I made at least 4 Sophie scarves around the holidays. I gifted 2 of them. No, sorry, I gifted 3 of them. And each one I used not the best yarn. One, quality wise, but 2, like, for the, floppiness and flexibility of the scarf, the fabric. It wasn't the most ideal. I wanted to elevate to the Sophie hood, and that was going to be something I kept for myself. Basically, that was my introduction back into knitting, the Sophie scarf. You might be rolling your eyes and saying, who didn't make one of those last year? And you'd be right. But for me, that was a really good entry point back in, and it really gave me the bug. My New Year's resolution this year was to learn how to knit a sweater. I signed up for a how to knit a sweater class. It was a series of 3 classes at a somewhat local yarn store to me in the West Village. It's called West Village Knit and Needle. So without further ado, I guess I'll get into finished projects. The first one is this sweater. This is my first sweater I ever made. It is, well, let me get the details for you. It's the Louisiana sweater from PetiteKnit. I initially was going to knit the size large, which I think is the 4th size, but when I was picking out my yarn for this pattern, I really didn't know much about yarn weights, how to calculate the right yarn based on what's the recommended yarn and finding the exact yardage and weight. I didn't know that yet. So I was relying on the expertise of the lovely people at West Village Knit Needle. They said that while I could do a combination, I think it called for like 500 grams of Borstet alpaca by Sandnes Garn. It called for that held double, which would make a super bulky weight. They said that I could also pick from this set of Malabrigo worsted yarns that had just amazing color, very pigmented, very unique color. And I was immediately gravitated towards it. So they're like, all right, well, if you do that, we'll just change your needle size, and you're good to go. You might need an extra skein, but by all means, go for that one if you like that one, which I did. I like that one. So as you can see, I did pick a very deep blue. It's the Malabrigo Worsted Azul Bolita number 80. Yeah, worsted weight yarn. I held it single, but it's not a super dense like weight. It's warm. It is so soft. It is so warm. Um, but I don't feel like I'm overheating by any means, if that makes sense. The fabric is kind of, it's like, a little floppy, not very stiff. It's comfy. It's a folded over collar, this kind of like mock neck height, and knitted top down with, or knit top down with raglan increases. First time I did raglan increases, first time I sewed down a collar. I had some issue with sleeve length. I knit it according to the measurements. I now realize that you're supposed to measure a sweater you like and then base it off of that, but I wasn't sure with blocking how much length I would gain back. So I think this one, I think this sleeve blocked out a little bit longer, or maybe I just knit it longer than the other one, but it ends up being, I would say, an accurate length or like a proper length for me. This one, not so much. So you can still see my sleeve a little bit. But it's, for the most part, fine. The length, I think, of this one worked out really well. The only issues I would say isn't even in the construction or the pattern. It really is the yarn I picked. There's a bunch of pilling all along the sleeve, along the body, um, anywhere that the sleeves or the body rubs against anything else. Wearing a coat, tragic. I don't have a pill shaver yet. I'm sure I'll get one eventually. The thing with this is like the color is so dark that I'm like, maybe once it's pilly enough, it'll just like look like part of the texture, which could be lazy on my part, but I feel like I'm moving on to other projects, and I don't know. This is just pure laziness. Because this yarn is so soft because it's 100% merino. Pills. I don't know how else to say it, but you'll see later on. I don't learn from that, so stay tuned. I only ended up using 4.5 skeins, which means I still have a skein and a half, just chilling. I think this would be more akin to like a size medium though, or like the third size, but it fits me well. I actually really like the fit of it. There's not much I would change from like a body perspective. I did not do German short rows or any shaping in the back. The pattern didn't have that included, and I don't think we had the time to really get into that in our class. But I have since started practicing those, so I'll get into that later. Because of that, though, there is a little bit of bunching near the neck. It doesn't bother me too much because of the mock neck situation, but yeah, it does kind of bunch a little bit there. So yeah, that was my first sweater. The class was extremely helpful. There are definitely a lot of video tutorials of making your first sweater that are extraordinarily detailed and guided. I found that it was, for me, easier to have someone to ask directly, and also to have someone who could explain to me specifically what to look for so I could read my work. Finished object number 2 is Sophie hood. Wait, where is it? All right, there it is. I made the size large because I'm like, oh, that'll be warmer. Except I used the world's cheapest yarn. Like, it was a value skein size, so like bigger than my head. And it was $7 from Joann's. Basically, I wanted to see if I could make this pattern before I invested in nice yarn for it. Yeah, it is an easy pattern. The only issue, and I say issue because it's happened a couple of times to me, um, is like just counting, like literally just making sure you're doing the increases at the right times. Um, for me, I was always increasing on the right side, or maybe it's the wrong side in the pattern, but you increase all on one side. I would lose track of when I was doing the increases though. And anyway, one side is significantly longer than the other. I just completely lost track towards the end. And I think there's a little bit of second sock syndrome with this product, specifically like doing the second half. Once you're done with the hood, it's just like so repetitive. It's easy, but like you still have to count. And so I'm like using like a row counter thing on my phone, like an app. The yarn is acrylic. It's like 100% acrylic. It's not warm, like at all. So a gust of wind comes in and it's like boom, my head's all exposed through these holes, and it's cold. The reason I really wanted the hood versus like the shawl is because my winter parka doesn't have a hood. I bought it on sale like a few Marches or Aprils ago, and because it was warmer at that point, I just didn't realize that it didn't occur to me that it didn't have a hood and that would be a problem in like the depths of winter. So I'm like, oh, I'll make a hood like this. Good in concept, execution, fine. Wearing it, not as warm as I want it to be. So that was my finished products. Let's move on to works in progress. So my first whip is the step-by-step sweater designed by Handmade by Florence. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with this pattern because she has such a detailed tutorial on her YouTube. And I wanted with this one to learn how to do German short rows. And also, this is a gift knit for my stepmom, but she wanted a non mock neck, non turtleneck sweater. And so the Louisiana sweater that I was making for myself obviously has a higher neckline. She wanted something that was a little bit more like crew neck. I'm about I'm about to finish the hem. I still have to fold down the collar. She has in her tutorial a way to sew down the double folded collar while you're knitting. I tried my hardest to figure that out, and I was just coming up empty. I could not catch everything right, and like my tension was really weird, and I was worried I was going to get a bunch of holes, which I ended up doing anyway with the German short rows, which let me see if I could show you without dropping just a bunch of stitches. The back, there's like these kind of bigger pockets here. I don't know if you'll see it. I'll put some pictures if not. Hopefully when I block it, I can kind of like smush the stitches together so it doesn't look as obvious. Size wise, I'm doing size B, and this is also Malabrigo worsted yarn. So the pattern calls for drops Nepal, and this is a free pattern too, which was also a reason I was interested in it. I think like 10 skeins of like 10 50-gram skeins of that. I ended up getting 6 skeins, 100 grams of the Malabrigo worsted in periwinkle. Yeah, same yarn. I didn't learn from the pilling. I also didn't know about the pilling when I bought this yarn. I bought the yarn for that sweater. I ordered it through my shop, my local shop. And then, come on up, Milo. I bought the yarn through my local shop for that sweater right before I had finished this one. So I hadn't worn it yet. Yeah, I don't know if you could see that. It's so much pilling. I kind of feel bad that it's going to be pilly like this. So I'm going to have to, I don't know. I'll warn her obviously, but I think I'll just have to make her another sweater in a different yarn composition another time. This sweater, I only used 4.5 skeins of yarn. That sweater, I bought 6 skeins again, or 6 hanks, and then they rolled it into skein. I think. I don't know the difference between a hank and a skein. I bought 6 things of yarn for this sweater too, despite it being a smaller size. I was originally going to do the cinema sweater by Kutuvakika because she also has a very detailed tutorial online on her YouTube for that. And I bought the pattern for that one, but when I showed my instructor, she said that it would require more yarn because of the batwing sleeve. So basically the sleeves are just like much wider and I think are a little bit dropped as well. So I had bought enough yarn that I thought would work for that And then I switched to the step-by-step sweater, and it requires less yarn. I think it's like, yeah, like 500 grams. I have 600 grams. And the yardage is equal, I'm pretty sure, or close to it. So I have a feeling I'm only gonna use like 4, at maybe even less. Right now I'm at 2.5 finishing the body. Also, top down raglan increases. There's supposed to be 15 centimeters of positive ease with that one. It's 10 to 15 centimeters of positive ease for this one. I definitely don't have that much positive ease. I think it's a little bit more fitted. Again, I think that's just because this ended up being more of a size medium than it was a size large. That was the first work in progress that I'm almost done with. Second whip is another Sophie hood, if you could believe it. And I roll my eyes because I have second stock syndrome on the second half of this Sophie hood, and it's taking me forever. It's taking me forever. Wait, where am I? Here's what happened. I am finishing the second half of the hood. This is not the first time I'm doing the second half of the hood. I had to frog back pretty much to the starting point of the first half of the hood a couple weekends back because I somehow miscounted to the point where there were like 6 extra rows on one side of the hood than the other. And I like went to match up the hood to make sure it was like aligning, and it was so off. It was so funky. There was like a jagged, like not jagged, but like a really steep like swoop down, so like it wouldn't have aligned if I couldn't even like try to stitch it together. It wouldn't have matched up at all. I have to go back. There's no way I could like keep it as is. I am obviously using mohair, so that was fun, but what I did was kind of like ball it up into one joint yarn ball. It hasn't knotted at all for me. I've been very lucky with that. Yeah, after I fixed it, again, this was a couple of weekends ago, I just have not picked this one up since. I think I just felt so like defeated by that. This is Sandnes Garn Tin Silk Mohair. It's an 80% merino, 20% cashmere blend, Grace DK from Moondrake. It's together not the most soft thing, so around the face is what I'm worried about. Yeah, I did not know what I was doing when I bought this yarn. So I have 2 skeins of each. It ended up being like $100 of yarn for this, so I have to finish it and I have to wear it. Like that's my thing. It's like I paid that much for it, and that might sound crazy. I don't know. I got very excited. I'm very new to this. I was, especially at that time. This was my first like proper yarn purchase. We're now in March, so I'm like, I don't even know if I'm gonna wear it this season. Either way, I'm still gonna finish it. I need to just get it off the needles and move forward with my life. But yeah, I did the size small for this one. I did the size large for that one. The size large I think is just too big. Size small is because that is all I can make with the yarn that I got. That's where I'm at with that. It's not my favorite project, but it is the one I'm making for myself right now. I'm trying to couple like a gift knit with like a self knit, so we'll see. All right, and then we'll move into acquisitions now, which reminds me I have to go get some hanks. Hello, I'm back. So my acquisitions are for specific projects, and then one like thing, a couple of things I'm just excited about. The first acquisition is, you're gonna hate me, Malabrigo, but Arroyo this time. Is it still merino wool? Yes. Is it superwash this time? Yes. So I'm hoping that is less pilling. It's very soft. But my mom picked this one out. This is yarn for a birthday gift I'm making for my mom. She wants a sweater as well. And I'm doing the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit for her. I'm doing the size extra small, which is the first size. She picked Malabrigo, not worsted, but Malabrigo, and a blue color, very much like mother, like daughter. This one's called Paris Night. The color is called Paris Night. It's a very deep blue. I'm not sure it's going to show up like the color wise here, but if it does, awesome. If not, I'll put a picture. But it's like a deep navy, and I got 4 hanks of this because when I did the conversions, like yarn yardage and stuff, it said I needed 3.9-ish hanks or skeins of this yarn. The pattern it calls for a lace weight held together with a fingering weight yarn to get a DK weight. This is just a DK. The reason I didn't get a fifth skein just for safety is because with the lot, they were out. They didn't have any more of this lot. They had others in a different color lot, but or dye lot, but I didn't want to run the risk of it having like weird striping. I didn't check the dye lot for this sweater, and I think there is like a light patch here and there. There are like light stripes throughout. I don't know if it's like the dyeing process or if it just aligns where there's been like a change in yarn. It doesn't bother me because this is a dark color. I didn't want to run the risk of there being like obvious issues in shading. So I got the 4 that were from the same dye lot, and that should be enough. We'll hope and pray, won't we? It's a top down, again, raglan increase. I know I need to challenge myself to do something different, but because these are gift knits, I wanted them to like look nice, and then we can move forward into new patterns, new styles. The next acquisition is for the Sevilla blouse by PetiteKnit. I bought this pattern and then I saw that the difficulty of it was higher than some of the other sweaters that I was working on. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. I will have to go back and look at the pattern once I start working on it, and I can maybe dive into that a little bit more. But I had a couple of skeins of this, just like loops and threads. I think it's a DK weight, and it's their heathered tweed polyester blend. It's nothing crazy. I'm pretty sure it's from Michaels. I did have to pick up another ball or 2 of this, and then holding it together with literally the cheapest like fingering weight. I think this is cotton yarn that I just got from Amazon, which is not a practice I want to keep doing, but I needed something quick and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this blouse. Similar to like the first Sophie hood, I just wanted to see if I could do it, like construction wise and everything. So I'm gonna try it out with this. It does combine to be the right weight, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so the pattern is a DK plus fingering weight equaling an Aran weight garment or fabric on US 8 or US 7 needles. This is DK, this is fingering. Hopefully it'll work fine. I think they'll look good together, but like this is more of like a can I do it kind of shirt versus like wearability. And a couple non-yarn acquisitions. I was able to find a Sandnes Garn Soft for Women book of patterns, pattern design magazine. Not exactly sure what it's called, but I'm pretty sure this is Soft for Women. 2202 is the number. I'm pretty sure it was those twins who knit. I think it was Jessica who was talking about getting this book, this pattern book, or finding it. I feel like a few other YouTubers have talked about it too. And based on how they were talking about the patterns and the flip through that they were able to do, but I ended up clicking through one of the links in the description because they had linked out a few different retailers that might have it in stock that would ship to the US. And it was an immediate click through to buy for me. First of all, the green sweater on the front, I want to make this exact one. This color is really speaking to me. Let me see if I can find more pictures of it. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. That color. I love the long rib. I think it's twisted rib, but I'm not entirely sure. That's just speculation on my part. But it's called the Frankie Genzer. There's one that's the Coast edition, which is I think the super bulky one. It's the gray one in here. And then the green one is the Borset Alpaca edition, so it's supposed to be lighter. I think that's the first thing I'm gonna knit from here. I would absolutely love to do a knit this whole thing and like do a recap video, either ranking the patterns or just reviewing my experience with it. There are some in here that's going to take me like a really freaking long time. The Jules Genzer, that's what it is. It's this beautiful lace, like mohair sweater. It's so soft and delicate. It is gorgeous. I've never knitted. Um, I've not done any lace work yet, or like very ethereal, soft fabrics like this. But I think that's going to take me a little bit of time, you guys. And the Jolie Genzer is this like really lovely striped sweater. I think it's a beautiful sweater. So I'm very excited about this book. I want to do, yeah, I really want to make everything in here. There's also the Gia Zipper Genzer. Does Genzer mean sweater? Maybe, I don't know. It's this like beautiful quarter zip. It's a level 5 difficulty, so we'll see how long this takes me, but that is a goal I have set for myself. And I also did not need to buy a sweater's worth of yarn for this, like a sweater quantity of yarn to get this. Maybe because it's an older version, or perhaps because the shop just didn't have that policy in place or something. I got it from the Galt House of Yarn in Canada. I'll put a link if it's still available, or I'll put the link regardless in case they like restock. But they did sell it just as is. I had no issues, and yeah, support Canadian businesses, you know. The last acquisition, I got some like interchangeable circular needle set. I had an Amazon gift card from the holidays, and I wanted to treat myself to some nice interchangeable needles. And I thought in the long run, the cost would be the cost would make more sense to get interchangeable versus just buying a new set of every size. I got the Knit Picks interchangeable needles in Caspian wood. So there's this kind of like marbled green color, and I got them. I got this color because Caspian reminded me of Cassian, and if you're an ACOTAR girl, you know, kind of thing. Obviously it's Caspian, not Cassian, but it was just the correlation. Also, I like the green color, and the cables are green too, which was fun. And then I also got the short interchangeable ones, same color, shorter cables, shorter needles, and I thought that would be nice for when I do like the cuffs and hems. So I got them both, and we'll see. I haven't used them yet because I was already using my pre-existing needles for my other projects. So next projects will be on these, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, they go from US 4 to US 10 in the short ones, and those are 3.5 millimeter to 6 millimeter. And then these ones are US 4 to US 11, which is 3.5 millimeter to 8 millimeter. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this first podcast episode. Thank you again for clicking on the video and for spending some time with me. Again, I am newer to knitting. I am hoping to do knitting podcasts maybe bi-monthly to start while I'm working my way up. But I'm hoping to do some other videos intermixed. Yeah, this was basically my January and February recap. And yeah, I know there are so many people who are so talented on YouTube that have taught me so much as I've started this journey. I just thought it would be really fun to, again, join the community, but also document my growth. I think to a degree, have some accountability too with keeping up with my projects. And yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be cool to watch back, a year from now to see how much progress has been made. So yeah, thank you again, and I will see you all soon.